They always told you the flood came because of monsters. Giants. Violent. Enormous. Marching across the earth, consuming everything in their path. That is the story most people were given. And it was easier that way. Because the real truth is far more uncomfortable. It wasn't the size of what walked on the earth before the flood that condemned humanity. It was something smaller. Something quieter. A transfer. A whisper. A gift. If you were to stand at the base of Mount Hermon today, in the shadow of its ancient stone, where the air is thin and the silence is heavy, you would feel something most people dismiss as wind. But it isn't wind. It's the memory of a decision made there thousands of years ago. A decision that set in motion the most catastrophic chapter in human history. Not a war. Not a conquest. A lesson. What was taught on that mountain is why the flood had to come. Not to drown giants. To erase knowledge. There is a book. It was read by the earliest followers of Scripture. It was quoted in the New Testament. And then, at some point, someone in power decided it needed to disappear. Buried. Hidden. Excised from the canon. That book is the first book of Enoch. And what it describes in chapter 8, just 8 short verses, is the event that changed everything. Stay with me. Because by the end of this, you will not look at the flood the same way. And you will not look at our own world the same way either. Before we go to the knowledge itself, we need to understand who brought it. The book of Enoch calls them the Watchers. 200 of them. Celestial beings. Assigned to a very specific, very passive task. To observe. Not to interfere. Not to teach. Simply to watch. Imagine that existence. For centuries, perhaps millennia. Standing outside of time, looking down at the mud and the blood and the brief, fragile flicker of human lives. Watching them struggle. Watching them freeze in the winter. Watching them die from simple infections, from blunt force, from a lack of understanding of the world they inhabited. And somewhere in the span of their watching, they made a choice. Pity? Arrogance? Boredom? Love? The text does not explicitly say. But it tells us what happened next. Their leader was a being named Semyazah. And Semyazah looked down at the world below. And he wanted to descend. Not to destroy them. To be among them. They gathered on the summit of Mount Hermon. 200 celestial beings. They made a pact. An oath. A mutual bonding to share the consequences of what they were about to do. Each one swearing to anchor themselves to the earth. To trade the infinite for the physical. They descended. They took wives. They built connections. And then they began to teach. Now here is the part that the early church did not want you to sit with for too long. The Watchers were not an invading army. They didn't arrive with fire and iron and conquest. They didn't burn villages or enslave populations. They arrived as teachers. As mentors. As benefactors. Bringing the gifts of a higher civilization to a people who had nothing. Doesn't that sound familiar? Throughout human history, we have given that story a different name. We call it enlightenment. Progress. Civilization. One group with more knowledge descending into the lives of those with less and offering them tools. To make their lives easier. To make them safer. To elevate them from the dirt. What the church feared was not the story of monsters. What the church feared was the story of mirrors. Because if you read Enoch chapter 8 carefully, you realize the Watchers didn't force a single thing. They did not conquer. They offered. and humanity accepted. Eagerly. Gratefully. Completely. The flood was not sent because evil came down from above. The flood was sent because humanity reached up and chose it. Let us go into the text. First Book of Enoch. Chapter 8. 4 verses that were excised from the biblical canon around the 4th century. 4 verses that explain, in quiet and specific detail, exactly what was taught, and why it terrified the ancient world. And Azazel taught men to make swords, and knives, and shields, and breastplates. Read that again. Not metaphor. Not allegory. Metallurgy. Weapons technology. Armor. Before this, according to the earliest records, human conflict was brutal but primitive. Stone against stone. Bone against bone. Wood splintering against flesh. The damage a man could do was strictly limited by the limits of his own body, by his exhaustion, by the fragility of his tools. And then the forge was lit. Picture it. The first furnace. Not a campfire built for warmth. A furnace. A thing built with dark intention. A structure of stone and clay. Bellows pumping breath into coals that burned hotter than anything these people had ever touched or imagined. And from that heat iron. Shapeable. Holdable. Lethal. Azazel, according to the text, didn't just hand them a finished sword. That would have been a limited problem. He showed them the principle behind it. The metallurgical knowledge. The science of extraction from ore. The art of tempering. The precise geometry of an edge meant to cleave bone. This wasn't a gift. This was a curriculum. And it continued. The text does not stop at weapons. And the making of bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids. Now, to a modern reader, this might seem trivial. Jewelry. Cosmetics. Decoration. Why is makeup listed in the same breath as the forging of swords? But read what it's actually doing. Before this, identity was biological. Tribal markers. Scars. Pigment drawn from the earth to signal belonging. Now, suddenly there was manufactured beauty. Crafted desire. Wearable status. Antimony was used in the ancient world as kohle, dark pigment for the eyes. It made people appear more striking. More magnetic. More powerful. Do you see what happened? The Watchers didn't just hand humanity weapons to destroy each other physically. They handed humanity vanity. The technology of wanting more. Of comparing. Of coveting. They introduced the concept of artificial hierarchy based on possession and appearance. A psychological weapon just as devastating as the physical one. And then came Semyaza's contribution. Semyaza taught enchantments, and root cuttings. Pharmakia in its ancient form. The science of plants as medicine, poison, and manipulation. The ability to brew something that altered another person's mind or body without their knowledge. The art of hidden power. Subversion. Control from the shadows. Add to this, astrology. Portents. The reading of signs. Other Watchers in the text teach the knowledge of the constellations. The movements of celestial bodies. Which sounds mystical to us, but in practice, in the ancient world, it was predictive power. The ability to forecast seasons. Floods. Migrations of herds. Knowledge that whoever held it could use to position themselves above others. To claim they spoke for the sky. To demand tribute. Here is what emerges when you read chapter 8 in full. Look at the list. Each gift, taken alone, seems like progress. Metallurgy is useful. Cosmetics are harmless. Herbalism is healing. Astronomy is navigation. But stacked together, delivered all at once, into the hands of a species that had not yet developed the ethical framework, the moral maturity, to hold them. The gifts became something else entirely. They became the architecture of domination. And what happened in the centuries that followed? The Book of Enoch describes it without flinching. The earth filled with violence, with blood, with warfare on a scale never before imagined. Not because the Nephilim, the giant offspring of the Watchers, were simply violent by nature, but because humanity itself, armed with Azazel's forge and Semizaw's roots and the star knowledge of the other Watchers, turned every single gift into a weapon. Every single one. And still, and this is the part that should stop you cold, the Watchers did not force this. They taught. Humanity chose. The writers of the Book of Enoch were not naive. They understood exactly what they were recording. And buried within the broader narrative, within the judgment scene that follows, there is a detail about Azazel specifically that is unlike anything else in the text. When God delivers his verdict, when the archangels are called to address the crisis, Azazel is not condemned for violence. He is not condemned for murder. He is condemned for teaching. The text says, specifically, the whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. Not through Azazel's own works. Through the works he taught. There is a legal and moral distinction there that the ancient writers understood perfectly. He did not commit the violence. He made it possible. The earth was not full of blood because Azazel raised a sword. It was full of blood because he taught a man how. There is a moment I want you to hold in your mind. Not a battle. Not a miracle. A moment of absolute stillness. Imagine Azazel, one of the greatest of the Watchers, standing on a hillside overlooking a valley. He is not moving. He is watching. Below him, in the last light of a setting sun, the valley floor shimmers with something new. Not crops. Not cattle. Fire. Dozens of forges. Hundreds of furnaces. The smoke curls upward in thick, gray columns, blocking the stars he once knew from above. The sound rising from that valley is not prayer. It is not song. It is hammering. Constant. Rhythmic. Purposeful. Deafening. And if you look carefully, look past the forges.
I saw it coming.
Look at what the hammering produces. You see the finished work laid out in the dirt.
To be done.
Swords. Thousands of them. Shields stacked against stone walls. Spearheads lined in endless rows, catching the firelight, and moving among the forges, carrying the weapons. Not soldiers. Farmers. Fathers. Brothers. Men who, a generation ago, had nothing sharper than a chipped flint stone to defend their herds. Azazel watches. He does not celebrate. He does not mourn. He simply watches. Because he knew, when he lit the first lesson, when he drew the first diagram of a blade in the dirt with his finger, he knew what it would become. Not might. Not could. Would. This is the pattern interrupt at the heart of the Book of Enoch that no documentary has stopped to confront. The text is not a horror story about monsters from outside. It is a tragedy about a teacher who gave humanity exactly what it asked for. And humanity destroyed itself with it. There are no villains in this story who chose violence. There is only knowledge. And the vast, terrible gap between possessing it and being ready for it. The archangels see what is happening. Uriel is sent to Enoch. Raphael to Azazel, Gabriel to the Nephilim, Michael to Semiramis. And the instructions God gives to Raphael regarding Azazel are specific to the point of being clinical. Bind Azazel hand and foot. Cast him into the darkness. Make an opening in the desert in Dudale and cast him in. Place rough and jagged rocks on him. Listen to the method. Not fire. Not judgment by combat. The darkness. The desert. The crushing weight of stone. A burial while still alive. Beneath the very earth that he helped corrupt. And here is the line that has no parallel anywhere else in ancient scripture. Cover his face, that he may not see the light. That is not punishment for violence. That is punishment for sight. For knowing too much. For sharing too much. The covering of his face is the exact reversal of his act. He gave vision to humanity. The forbidden sight of hidden knowledge. And so, his own side is taken. Darkness for darkness. But the text does not end there. Because once Azazel is bound, once the watchers are imprisoned in the deep valleys of the earth, God instructs one more thing. The flood. And here is the phrase that stopped me the first time I read it. Read it carefully. Cleanse the earth of all oppression, and of all unrighteousness, and of all sin, and of all godlessness, and all the uncleanness that is wrought upon the earth. Vanish it. Vanish it. Not defeat it. Not punish it. Vanish it. The flood was not a weapon of war. It was an erasure. A deletion. Everything built with Azazel's metallurgy. Every fortress reinforced with Semiramis herbs and poisons. Every civilization organized around the star knowledge of the other watchers. Gone. Not a ruin left behind to be studied. Not a monument left standing to be worshipped. Beneath 40 days of crushing, relentless water until nothing remained but mud. The most powerful, comprehensive act of record destruction in the history of religion. Noah survived. His family survived. And Noah, according to the text, was already living in a world saturated with forbidden knowledge. He knew what a forge was. He had seen metallurgy at work. He had watched the weapons being made. He survived. And he carried everything he observed into the new world. Which means the flood didn't erase the knowledge. It erased the civilization built by it. But the pattern, the human instinct toward it, survived. In the hands, and the memory, of the only family left alive. Let us step back from Mount Hermon. Let us step back from Azazel and the forge. And let us stand where we actually are. A civilization of 8 billion people. More computing power in a single phone than existed on the entire planet 60 years ago. More destructive capacity in a single weapon than in every blade Azazel's curriculum ever produced combined. And the question the Book of Enoch is actually asking, the question it has always been asking, is not about ancient history. It is about this moment. About us. Because if you strip away the cosmology, if you remove the angels and the Nephilim and the theological framing, what you are left with is a story about a technology transfer. A group with greater knowledge gives a group with lesser knowledge access to tools. The receiving group uses those tools in ways the giving group either didn't anticipate, or chose to ignore. And the consequences outpace the moral development of everyone involved. We have that story. Right now. Happening in real time. The development of autonomous weapons. Systems that can identify and eliminate a target without human approval in the kill chain. The acceleration of synthetic biology. The ability to design and print living organisms from digital code. The concentration of artificial intelligence in the hands of a small number of actors, distributed to a population with absolutely no consensus on how to use it. Each of these is someone's forge. And none of us, not the builders, not the governments, not the recipients, have developed the ethical architecture to hold them. The Book of Enoch was not a warning about fallen angels. It was a warning about the human relationship with power that exceeds its own wisdom. The scholars who've spent their careers studying one Enoch, scholars like Gabriele Boccaccini at the University of Michigan, whose work on Second Temple Judaism brought the Dead Sea Scrolls texts back into serious academic study. They describe the Book of Enoch not as mythology, but as theodicy. Theodicy, the attempt to explain why suffering exists in a world with divine oversight. And the answer Enoch offers is not divine neglect. It is divine grief. The text portrays God not as a distant watchmaker observing coldly from above. The response to the flood, in the Enochic tradition, reads more like the response of someone watching something precious be destroyed by its own hand. Not anger. Sorrow. There's a line buried in chapter 9, as the archangels present their report. A line that scholars rarely quote, because it doesn't fit easily into either the vengeful God narrative or the compassionate God narrative. The archangels say to God, "The whole earth is filled with blood and iniquity. And now behold, the spirits of the souls of men who are dead cry and make their suit to the gates of heaven. Their groaning has ascended, and they cannot come forth because of the greatness of their pain. And thou knowest all things before they happen, and thou seest these things and dost suffer them. And thou seest these things and dost suffer them." That phrase, the choice to watch and suffer rather than prevent, sits at the center of everything the Book of Enoch is trying to say. There is no simple answer here. There is no reassuring resolution. There is only the observation that knowledge without wisdom is not progress. It is a delayed catastrophe. And then there is Enoch himself, the man who was allowed to see everything, who walked with the divine, who witnessed the judgment of the watchers, who was shown the storehouses of the winds and the chambers of the stars, and who returned to earth and could not change a single thing. That is the most quietly devastating detail in the entire text. Enoch, the most informed human being alive, goes back to his people. He tells them what is coming. The flood. The erasure. The end. And they don't stop. They keep building. Keep forging. Keep using every gift Azazel gave them. Right up until the rain starts. The knowledge that destruction was coming did not stop the destruction. Because they couldn't imagine it, even while they were told. We are very good at not imagining things. After the waters recede. After Noah's family steps onto dry land. The Book of Enoch does not declare victory. It does not say, the corruption is ended. It says the spirits of the Nephilim, now bodiless, now wandering, became what we call demons. Not creatures from another realm. The residue of humanity's own experiment. The byproduct of what happens when the forge burns too long. They are still here, in the cosmology of the text. Not imprisoned. Not gone. Wandering. Whispering. The same whisper that started on Mount Hermon. Still in the air. Still being accepted. What do we do with this? The ash was washed clean. The forges were drowned. Every blade Azazel taught them to make. Every charm Semizah taught them to brew. Every calculation the other watchers showed them to predict and control. Gone. Beneath the water. Under the mud. Buried the same way Azazel himself was buried beneath rock, in darkness, face covered. And still, 8 people stepped off a boat. And they remembered. They carried it forward. Every instinct. Every capacity. Every terrible, brilliant, dangerous appetite for knowledge that had always been the defining characteristic of the human species. We rebuilt the forges. We found the roots again. We mapped the stars. Give us enough time, and we build back toward everything the flood tried to take. Not because something external is whispering to us. Because it's inside us. It has always been inside us. The Watchers didn't install something new in the human soul. They found something that was already there. The hunger to know more, to make more, to have more. And they gave it a shape. A blade. A powder. A calculation. The Book of Enoch was removed from the biblical canon. But its questions were never removed from human experience. They just kept appearing in different forms. Every century, a new technology. Every century, the same lag, the ethical framework running 10 years behind the capability. Every century, the same flood of consequences we didn't predict, because we were too excited to stop and ask whether we were ready. We are always Azazel's students. We are always reaching for the forge. The only question, the one that separates the pre-flood world from the world we want to build, is whether we've finally developed the wisdom to hold what we're reaching for. A long silence here. A stillness before the last words. The ancient world didn't end because it was evil. It ended because it was capable but not careful. Because it could, before it asked whether it should. And Azazel watched from his hellside in silence. Not triumphant. Not destroyed. Just still. Looking at what the gift became. So tell me in the comments honestly, was it the fallen angels who destroyed the ancient world? Or did they simply hand us the blade? If you want to go deeper into the hidden history of early scripture, subscribe. Not because I'll tell you what to believe, but because there is far more still buried. And some of it changes everything you thought you knew.